Hey folks, this is Paresh Motiwala from Boston here. It is about 1:59 p.m. We should start within the next few seconds. Paul Paiva is already ready with his presentation. And before he goes, I have mandatory slides that I go through, thanking our sponsors, talking about a few new events, and so on. So bear with me. We have a pretty good full house today. I see some of my friends from Boston are also here today. Okay, so it's 2 o'clock and let's get started. I think I can do this now, slideshow, and share my screen. I hope you folks can see the screen now.
Yes.
Absolutely fantastic. So everybody welcome. It's nice and warm here in Boston, about 85 degrees, which is absolutely unusual for this time of the year. Awesome colors out in the mountains. For those who are sitting at home and would like to come and take a peek at the colors, please do stop by Boston. So yes, the most important event coming up for us is November 6th through November 9 in Seattle is the PASS Summit. Do come over and check it out. It's awesome. If you have not already planned your hotels and flight and such, this may be a good time for you to do so. So code one is if you are trying to get last year's past content, you can use the VGSTRKG0E for last year's free content, and for getting $150 off of this current pass, you can use VGDisc G0E as a code. That part of that money also goes to this user group for running ourselves. So there's some pass gear also now available for sale. I wish this were the Red Sox, but it is not. It's, I think, Yankees gone now. So PASS Summit activities, a whole bunch of things will be happening during the day. So the PASS Summit 2018 Buddy Program, Games Night, the Feather, the BOF, as we call it, the Birds of the Feather Luncheon. I'll be there with the team of the PASS DBA virtual chapter. Women in technology, even if you are not a woman, I strongly recommend going and attending one of these sessions. It is absolutely amazing. We do that over here every time when we have a SQL Saturday in Boston. So the elections are coming up for the board of directors. I might actually put in my name in the ring. I don't know, but if possible, do try to go ahead and put your vote here. And in fact, if you want to compete, this is a good time to do so. And you can make a change in the organization if you're looking to make any changes. There are approximately 30 virtual groups. Something will actually meet your criteria for learning. So feel free to join any of these virtual groups. It's been coming up again, and SQL Saturdays that are coming up. As you can see, the next one is this Saturday in Columbus, Georgia, Charlotte, and Lincoln, Nebraska. In Europe, we have in Holland, Sofia, Madrid, and Munich. So definitely, if you are here, it means that you are already a member of PASS in some shape or form, but definitely do participate by either volunteering or any of these user groups that you have. If you don't have a local user group, feel free to start one. We can absolutely help you to start one local user group too. Who can benefit out of this community is the DBA, developer, database architect, analyst, BI or analytics professional, IT professional, IT or a data consultant, CIOs, and so on. So please come, connect, share, and learn. These are the social media handles for ourselves. Do talk about Paul Paiva. I think he'll be sharing his Twitter handle shortly. So tweet about him and say what an awesome job he's doing. And I wish we handled that. So the Twitter handle for the PASS DBA virtual chapter is PASS_DBA_VC. So if you get a chance, go ahead and tweet about it right now. So Paul Pivar, right, is what 18 years with Microsoft SQL Server. He has worked in the roles of production DBA, database developer, database architect, application developer. So basically from head cook to dishwasher, virtually everything, right? Including your MCDBA certification. And he has performed various data migrations and supported 3 terabyte plus databases, like 1 billion rows, geez. And with a high transaction count. He's a member of PASS, blogs about lessons learned from developers' approach to SQL Server administration, and has been the president of the Boulder SQL Users Group from January 2019 till about now. His website is cocreativesolutions.com. And without much ado, I think I can hand it over to my friend Paul. Paul, I am going to make you a presenter now. And make you a presenter. And do let us know how you would like us to handle the questions raised by the people, right? That would be awesome.
Okay, let me make sure I'm sharing my screen properly. Let's see. You don't see my screen yet, right?
Yes, we do.
Oh, you do? It's I've got 3 screens, so I need to.
You are showing the one with looks like Microsoft Teams, actually.
Okay, how about, does it show a PowerPoint on that one?
No.
Microsoft Teams.
I think that is like a whole bunch of.
How about this one here?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes, and my bad. I forgot something. I must definitely do this. Give me 1 sec before I do anything else. I must go ahead and thank our sponsors. I don't know how that happened. I forgot them. So I think it's Susie and Quest are our normal sponsors for this chapter, and hope you get to visit their websites and enjoy some of their awesome products that they have. So, okay, so please continue, sir.
Okay. So everybody's seeing a screen that says Taming a busy SQL agent, right?
Sir.
Okay, let's see. Oh, wait a minute, it's in the wrong screen. Darn it. 1 second. I wonder how I do that. When I try to launch the PowerPoint, it starts on a different screen. I don't think it matters though. So we'll just continue. So hi everybody, I'm Paul Paiva. I live in Colorado, north of Denver, near a city called Boulder. Anyway, so I've been involved with SQL Server ever since version 6.0, which tells you that I'm an old guy, which means that I started around 1990, 95-ish, I think, yeah. Anyway, so I love SQL Server, and I started off as an application developer. So I wrote a lot of code in Visual Basic 3.0. And my first professional work was writing a website, or not a website, writing an application in VB with a back end of Microsoft Access. And I was working for Sprint Corporation, and they wanted to upgrade their database. There was 200 users on this application with the Access database, and they wanted to upgrade it to something new, which was called SQL Server 6.0. And so that's how I got my start. And the more I worked with it, the less I did application development, and the more I did SQL Server. So I think in my 20 years of working with this, I've had the luxury of working as a DBA and also as a developer. When I say developer, I mean SQL developer. And so my kind of soapbox that I like to stand on is that so often, like when you're looking for a job, somebody will say, well, what's your skills? Are you a DBA or are you a SQL developer? And to me, that's a funny question, because even though you may concentrate on one of those, it seems to me that you really do well to develop both skill sets. And really, in my opinion, they're kind of the same skill set. So what this means is that some production DBAs are comfortable with architecting an HA environment, or a disaster recovery environment, but they may not be so good at going through a stored procedure of 3,000 lines of code that's doing all kinds of crazy things, manipulating data. Similarly, somebody who is working and writing these 3,000 line stored procedures, manipulating data, they may not necessarily have a good sense on what's happening at the server level. Are the data and the log files on the same disks? How many files do you have for tempdb? All those kinds of questions are not on the mind of a SQL developer. But when you're working on a performance issue, it's so important that you know both skill sets, because the production DBA person may identify that, guess what, the problem was over here in this code, and if he or she can identify the problem in that code, so much the better. And similarly, when the developer writes code, when they deploy it, it may not be working well. It may not be any problem with their code. It may be a problem with the way the server is configured. So with that as a preamble, let's get started. So I've been in environments where we have a very busy SQL Server agent. Like there may be 10, 20, 30 more or 50 jobs, and they're running all kinds of processes at different times, and it's just very complicated to see what's going on in there. And maybe it's all working fine, but let's say there's a problem where, we need to bring the server down. How do you bring the server down when jobs are getting kicked off every 10 minutes, and you have to be careful about when you turn the server down, because you're going to, there's going to be some jobs that are already running. So you don't want to start it off when something is about to run or while something is running. So you need to get the system to be stabilized with nothing running before you can turn it off. And maybe the reason you're shutting it down is because you have to add some disk or add some memory or whatever it is, or put in who knows, you got to get it to stop. So that, I have been in that situation before. Has anybody had that kind of a situation with a SQL agent that's just very busy? So you know what, I'm going to try to start my PowerPoint again, and I'm going to shift my screen. So that's what I'm going to do. I think I can do that. Hold on while I shift my screen. Let's see. Think that's, well, wait a minute, monitor, there we go. Okay. Can anybody give me some feedback? Paresh, can you give me some feedback if we're seeing the right screen?
At least here we are.
So now you see the, it looks like the PowerPoint presentation has started, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Okay, so let's just go to the next screen. Let's see here. There we go. Okay, so here's the problem scenario. Busy production server, many jobs are defined. Some are enabled, some are disabled. Jobs are being executed around the clock, and you need to bring the agent or the instance down for some reason. Maybe you're out of disk, maybe there's a runaway job or process. You have to do a reboot because of another application. There could be some other hardware problem. So many reasons. So the challenge is that you just can't shut the agent down while the job is executing. When the job finishes executing, another may have started. So you have to figure out when the next job kicks off and figure out, oh, I need to disable that job, but it gets very complicated. So how can this be solved? There's probably many ways. Everybody here, I'm sure, can put their mind to it and find their own way. But the way I solved it was I just disable all the jobs. But the nice thing about that is nothing will execute. Then when all the jobs have finished, I simply turn off the agent or my instance, do my maintenance, and then I go back to work and put everything back on. But of course, there's a challenge. if I have 200 jobs, it would take me all day to right click and disable all the jobs. And when you're finished with your maintenance, you need to put the jobs back into the same position they were. And you don't want to make a mistake of enabling a job that was previously already disabled. So the solution that I came up with was we save the state of the jobs. Very easy to do. And then we disable all the jobs. Then we do our maintenance, and then we reestablish the job state. So pretty basic. And this is what I was talking about before, about it's good to wear more than one hat. So when a DBA, production DBA person can write code, all of a sudden, he or she can do a lot of work. So the advantage, or the technique here is to write your code beforehand, not when you're having the problem. And store it in a safe place that is easily reachable. And that's it. So now I'm going to do a demonstration. Okay. I'm going to change screens now. Let's see. So now you should be seeing a screen that is a SQL Server Management Studio screen. Okay.
Now, yes.
Okay. You see the hello there? Okay, very good. So in my environment, so years ago, when I was getting my start with playing with SQL Server statements, about 20 years ago, I met a gentleman who was a Microsoft MVP. His name was Bill Wonder. And he had an interesting technique to the challenge of being a DBA. He said, take all of your code that's important and put it into one database and put that database on that instance, and actually put that same database on all of your instances. And it's a small, lightweight database, but it has all your code. So there's many ways to do anything. Some people may not like that idea. Maybe they just some people put all this code in MSDB or in master. Some people like to have lots of scripts, which they pull out, and they like to keep the environment untainted. Okay, so everybody's got their method. So here's a server. It's called SOPA2. It's actually a production live server. It's on, it's in the cloud, but I'm connecting to it in my local SSMS environment. The client is my, I know the client, so they know that I'm doing this. So they know that they trust me with their data. So anyway, so I have this database called admin, and in this admin database, I have a bunch of tables. So it's in the cloud. So everything's going to take about 5 seconds. There we go. Just a few tables, nothing too much. And then I have a whole bunch of stored procedures. And these procedures are all my important code that I need at a moment's notice that does many, many different things. So by the way, I have a SQL blog. Let me see. Okay, in case you're interested in this code, I'll put a link to this later, but I'm going to say, there we go. So, so in this here, I have all my code. I'm not interested in doing a blog to get followers and things. And, I don't say in there, oh, I had coffee this morning and that's in my blog. But what I do is, I work as an independent. And so I do contract work, I do consulting work. And whenever I go to a new contract, they ask, or sometimes you have to sign a contract that says that you're not going to steal, well, obviously anything that's theirs, proprietary stuff, but any code that I write during my time there is their code. And so it's a tricky thing. Like, what if you write some code that does something, a very simple process, and you want to use that code in the next environment, but you wrote it with this client, Well, so one choice is you simply rewrite the code if it's not too difficult at the next client, or um, but if the code was in the public domain, such as on some website or from Google somewhere, then there's no legal issue. So what I do is I take all my important code and I put it on my blog. It's really my personal blog. It's my personal repertoire, repository of code. And I just put it there. And then that way, if anytime I'm at any place, any client site, and I'm like, I need a code snippet. Well, I go to my blog. I know exactly where my code is, and there it is. So for example, here's a little piece of code. It's called VW job. And you could query, I love the DMVs. It has all this great information. But, the DMVs, you have to make a join here, join there, and it gets a little complicated. And you have to save the script, and it just gets tedious. And I'm a very lazy person. I'm a very lazy DBA. And I say that with pride, because if you have an attitude of laziness towards your work, you'll actually become better at finding good techniques so you don't have to repeat the same thing. And I don't really mean I'm lazy. Obviously, I enjoy my work, but I don't want to do the same thing twice if I don't have to. So for example, here's some code for VW job, and I'm going to go over here to a screen now, and let's just say, so this is in my admin database. I have a view, so my view is VW, and then it's called job, and right there, here's a list of all my jobs. So I could have gone to the systables, but what's nice about this is I can do other things, and I can join it to whatever I want and make it nice and pretty. Okay, so this is whether the schedules are enabled, how many schedules are in that job, and is the job enabled, and this is the name of the job, this is the name of my instance, and descriptions. And so you notice that I have a bunch of test jobs here, which are dummy jobs, but then I have 2 or 3 important ones. This is the one that does my daily backups, and this is the one that does the log backups every, I think it might be every hour in this case. Okay, and I like to turn this one off because I don't like to purge stuff out unless I want to purge it out. I like history in my SQL Server agent. And quick detour. So I do like going to my agent over here, and not everybody will agree with me, but I like to go over here and let's see where my screen pops up. Go to the history tab. Let's see, history over here. And I like to disable this limit size of job history. Some people may not agree because they'll think, well, then MSDB will get really big. I like it getting big, and databases, it's not too big. And when I need to limit it, I can limit it. But I like keeping history, especially if there's problems. If I have jobs which maybe 8 months ago this job was failing and now it's working and now it's failing again, I want to know about what happened 8 months ago or a year and 8 months ago on that particular job. So anyway, I've turned off the deletion of job history. Okay, so similarly, I have another view. It's called VW job history. So again, I don't have to do any joins here. Let's take a quick look at a job history. My view. Okay, so okay, this one's not too bad. There's only a history table, a jobs table, and syscategories table. And then there's a code, a run status, which I decided to hard code into what they mean, so it's more meaningful to me. I also put in a function, a user-defined function, which formats the job information, because then if you look at this native, if you look at the native So it puts it, here is it. So look at this run date and run time. Very ugly if you want to do sorts and order bys. Very ugly for doing important processing. This is a character, you know, and you see how, depending on the time, it's just very, very difficult to work with. So I made a function where I simply pass in these arguments, and it puts it into a real date time format. So you know, I myself, rather than looking at this data and having to do the joins and remember where the joins are, when it's much easier for me to remember VW job history, and there it is. I'm going to sort descending. Okay, so let's look at what ran recently. So here's my test jobs that are running every minute. Let's say I want to get, so I like categories. So I made all my test jobs a certain category. Let's look at my real jobs that are not test jobs. And there they are. This is my backups that are running every day. And let's see, this is the log backup. Let's see, I don't want to look at the log backup. So these are my daily backups. So there's like approximately once per day. It was failing there for a couple of days when we ran out of space, but it's back to normal over here. So anyway, I'm a fan of writing lots of views of information you need and putting it in a place that you can get to it easily. Okay, so let's go back to what we're doing for today's topic, which is here's all my jobs. I can also look at these in the agent. There they are. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 disabled jobs, and then a bunch of enabled jobs. And so let's say the scenario is now we want to bring the server down, but I have jobs being kicked off, and I want to stop them from being kicked off. So I've written a stored procedure. So let's see, when I look over here, let's see, how many do I have? Let's see. Where a job enabled, so let's do this. Let's say, let's say we want to get, okay, how many enabled and disabled jobs do we have? We've got 5 enabled, or sorry, disabled, and 17 enabled. Okay, so we have the stored procedure, which I will share with you later. It's called job disabled jobs that are enabled. So let's look at that. So what we do is we check for a previous backup of a table. We back up the SIF's job information in MSDB into a table. Then we disable all the jobs, and then we call update the update job for each job so that the agent cache is refreshed. This is useful when you want to set SQL Server agent down. We've already talked about that. By the way, lots of people write code without headers. I am a fanatic on descriptive headers. The person that's going to help is going to be you. Okay, now I always have a usage section on how I run this. So this says that this disables all the jobs. It doesn't disable it, it just shows. So I have a parameter here called debug. So if I put in a 1, it won't do anything. It'll just give me some information. And there's that same information. It's telling me what I got. I haven't done anything yet, right? So let's go back to this other window over here. I'm going to actually drag this over here. There. So let's take a look at the jobs. There they are, and you see how some are disabled, but most of them are enabled. Now I'm going to run this code, and I'm going to say disable everything. Okay, all done. Now I'm going to go back to this query over here. Everything's disabled. Okay. Then I can go to my the job activity window, what's that called, and verify that everything is disabled. And as soon as I'm sorry, not disabled, but as soon as verify that everything is not running, as soon as there's no more executes in this column here, then I'm ready to shut my server down. After I've done my shutting of the server down or the instance and I've done my maintenance, then I'm ready to turn everything back on. So everything comes back on. I have a job here called, I'm sorry, not a job. I have a procedure. Starts with job. There it is. Enable jobs that were enabled. Let's put that over here. Okay. So, by the way, let's say I screw up and I accidentally run this one again. If I try to, so they're already disabled. I'm going to disable them again, and somebody might already see, well, I'm going to lose the state. So let's see. It says, aha. It says there's already a table that exists. You may first need to run this. So it's helping me. It's telling me that I'm running the wrong proc. So there's a table here. So if I were to query this table, and it is from MSDB. So there's where we, okay, it's not there. What happened? Let's see. Is it possibly that? Nope. Oh, great. Let's see what happens here. Oh, why is that not working? MSDB, DBO. Oh, I have the wrong table name.
The object, yeah, that is not there, right? That were.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's where I recorded all the information. So if I was to go over here to MSDB, in my sys databases, normally there's no tables here. I did this a moment ago, and you have a slew of system tables. But now when I refresh my tables over here, this stored procedure did make one table, and there it is. And that's this data right here. So now that the server's back up and I want to reestablish everything, I go to this other stored procedure, which is called enable jobs that were disabled. And again, we can run it with just the parameter 1, which won't do anything. It tells us what we have. So the date of backing up, this is the data of the backup of the jobs is here. Previously enabled was 17, previously disabled was 5. So now that everything is what I think it is, I'm going to ready to restore everything. So now when I go back here to my query on the jobs, remember they were all disabled. Now they're back to where they were. So I've done my maintenance, I've done my fixes, fixed my runaway processes. Everything's back to normal. If this was 200 jobs and I hadn't written this code previously, it might have given me some stress, and I might have had to have worked all night to come up with some fixes for my problem. But this was code that I wrote before, stored it away for when I need it, and it was very helpful. So now let's say I run this one again. Okay, well, before we do that, let's go check over here. Remember, this is the table, the history table. It is now gone. So once it puts it back, it gets rid of this table because we don't need it anymore, and we don't want to cause a problem with somebody thinking we're in the middle of something. Excuse me. So if I was to run this again, it says cannot enable jobs that were previously disabled because a backup was not made. To make a backup and then disable jobs, use this other stored procedure, which we know about. So that's it. Very basic stuff. Hope it wasn't too basic. I hope it was a good, easy, basic solution, but I'm addressing, fairly challenging problems. So any questions? So while we're on that this topic, remember now we have this admin database with lots of views. I want to just demonstrate another view I have. This one is called Dictionary of Columns.
So one sec, Paul.
Yeah.
So there are a couple of questions here.
Okay.
Will this code be available on the blog site? Yes, it will be available on the blog site. You will also get this code on our PassDB virtual chapter website also. So that comes from Ed Swastists, and yeah, I think that's him. Same question.
So there's 3 objects you need. One is this object here, which we already seen. There's a second object down here, which is this one. And now this does call, I'm all about object reuse. There's another object, which I don't have in my blog, but I'm going to put it up there in the next 30 minutes. So if you were to do a search for this object here, drop, I'm going to make a special place, okay? I'm going to make a special entry in my blog that'll have all the code. You just grab this, starting with this use admin, or put it and use whatever you want, and go to the very bottom. And so I'm going to make a new entry in my blog, which is going to be called Taming a SQL agent, all code necessary with all dependencies. So you just grab that and it'll create 3 objects and it'll be ready to go. And you can just change the top line. Any more questions?
Nope.
Okay, I want to just kind of show off something else, and that is one of my objects in the admin database is VW Dictionary of Columns, right? And you all know that we have these wonderful sys tables, like sys objects, sys tables, sys columns, all those kinds of tables. But the problem is they're only in one database. What if I want to compare? So like here, this is my actual production environment. They have
So
different.
while you're looking for it, hey Paul, while you're looking for it,
Yeah.
Somebody just asked, what is your blog site, which you can share a little later.
Yes.
And how do you address job sequencing? Perhaps some jobs need to be run before others, etc. So this is from Ed. The other one is from Walter Seaman.
Yeah. Okay, first of all, I'll take the easy one first. So you go to, you can either just search for my name, Paul, P-A-I-V-A, and it'll take you to, actually do Paul Paiva SQL, and it'll take you to, well, let's not try that. Let's try, try my business name, Co-Creative. So you can do that in the URL line. Just go to my business name, co-creativesolutions.com, co-creativesolutions.com, and that redirects you to my Blogspot blog, which is right here. And once you're here, do a search on this drop object if exists, and then you have all the code you need for today's presentation. But I'm going to make it so that at the top entry, the home page of this, when you in about 30 minutes, when we finish, we'll have it. Okay, the other question was, how do you handle sequencing of jobs? That's tricky. I don't think I have a good answer for you. But I think, you as the developer or as the DBA needs to craft a solution. Um, um, yeah, I think that, you need to know more information. You might have some metadata. I'm a big fan of metadata. So you might have a table with a list of jobs and when they last ran, and you can put some dependency information. If you have a lot of that going on, I would probably craft a specialized solution, which would use another table to keep track of things. So what I wouldn't do is I wouldn't hard code in my job. Well, if this job, I don't like hard coding things um, because they're really hard to maintain, that kind of code. So I would much rather create metadata where I can just simply change the metadata. And like, let's say you say I need job A first and then job B and then job C. Okay, great. So you have a table with some metadata, which is the metadata, and you would create the dependency information in there. And then later, well, you know what? Now I want to have job C first before job B. Well, then you go to the metadata, you go to a table and just change the information there. You don't have to change any jobs or packages or anything. Nothing has to be recompiled. The metadata is changed very easily. Okay, so while somebody might be coming up with more questions, I'm going to show you this thing here. So I was talking about metadata, like sysobjects, systables. But what if I want to compare the same table, which maybe there's 5 versions of that database on this instance, maybe a little bit, maybe one's a production version and one's an older version, one's a backup from a year ago. I want to compare the structures. Well, with a view like this, let's just say, and I happen to know the main database here is that name. Okay, so I'm going to just pick a table. Let's see here. I want to. Okay, I know a table. So this is a table that I know exists. So this is all the columns in that table. You see I have 49 rows. So I'm going to demonstrate a little bit about how this could be used. So I'm going to say I want to get the DB name, the database name. I want the object name we already know, and I want the number of columns. So I want to get count of columns.
Is the backup of your admin database available for download?
I don't have a backup of it available, but my whole blog is basically my admin database. So if you go through my blog, that's everything about my blog is focused on that admin database. And there's a lot of code in there, And so anyway,
Okay.
so let me demonstrate this one here. So group by DB object name, and I'll tell you how it works. So let's see, order by DB. So we're going to compare how many columns I have in this table amongst different databases. Whoops, I forgot the most important thing. This right here. Did I do that right? Nope. There we go. Okay, so notice back here, this employee table in this database has 49 columns. So that's just something that's really useful information. You could, and the data types are also in there, so I can compare, like, when did a column go from 30 characters wide to 50 characters wide. I can do that kind of thing with this kind of with this kind of metadata available. Watch this one. This is kind of a fun one. I'm going to say, okay, so VW table is, you know, at some point you might want to know, how big are my tables? How many rows? I want to know what the biggest table is I have on the instance, not just in one database. Because or maybe I don't care about the rows. Maybe I'm more interested about how many megabytes, you know, is that table. So my, I think my, this column, I think it might be broken at the moment, but I can show it to you on a different instance. Okay. So this is how many rows, and I put FMT because FMT means I put a formatting in there. It has a comma. Oh, you know what? I just realized that this is so tiny. Can you guys see this? Or is it bigger? Okay, maybe it's okay. All right.
Yeah, the results are small, but I
Yeah.
think the script is visible.
Okay. So here I have, you know, all this information, and I have, you know, some little scripts. Okay, let's say I want to identify 15 tables that I want to truncate. I do a query here, and then I just go over here and I have my truncate script right there, and I can just copy this and paste it in a window, and then boom, I'm done. Or if I want help, you know, by the way, did you know that SP help index doesn't tell you everything you need? Does anybody know what's missing in the SP help index?
Help?
Help?
No, just being it.
Yeah. What's missing is it doesn't tell you about the includes. It doesn't tell you include information.
Okay, makes
So
sense.
similarly, watch this. Check this out. I have another BW fragmentation. How about that? This is going to tell me the fragmentation of every table in every database on the instance. Let's start with and I think we're going down a tangent, so I should probably stop with this. But I just wanted to demonstrate a little bit about the benefits of having server-wide metadata as opposed to database-only metadata.
Okay.
So this is taking a while because I think I might have this set up to go to get details data from sysindexes. So anyway, any other questions while we're waiting for that to finish?
Yeah, somebody just asked because you asked to ask.
Okay.
You have a routine to defrag a database.
I certainly do. It's in my admin database. Everything I need to do in my daily life is in my admin database. Here it is. I call it maint index. So I also have maint checkdb and maint set autogrow and a few other things. Maint index. Here it is. Let me pull it over to this side. Okay, so I simply pass in the name of my database, and I have my parameters, the reorg threshold, the rebuild threshold, fill factor. So these are my default values. Recompute statistics, I always do that. I can't imagine why you wouldn't, but I guess I'm sure there's a reason. And I have logging as well. And so you can put in the database name. You can also put in all, and it'll do all databases. And let's try that out. So I'm going to go to, let's see, this is SOPA, and I used to go 2040. Nowadays I'm going 515 in the thresholds. And this is not going to do anything. It's just going to run something. I'm going to stop this query. There must be something wrong with that. Well, there's nothing wrong with it. It's it's getting detailed information when I should have told it to get the sampling.
Also, just for those who could be interested, I did a slight kind of complement of this presentation. It is called How to Fine-Tune Your Maintenance Plans. This I did about 7 or 8 months ago.
Oh,
And
cool.
the recording of that with the scripts is available on our website. So definitely, if you are, it's called Fine-Tuning Your Maintenance Plans.
Nice.
Definitely check them out. Yeah, it's a lot of what you're saying here, plus at least 7 or 8 other tips for the people. So.
Right. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, just a time check. It's 2:50, so we have 10 minutes. So.
Yep. And so I'm actually going to switch to a different SQL instance here because that server. Hold on, wait a minute. Let's see. How is that one? Nope, not that one. That one. Nope. How about
Could this work? Could this enable disable solution be adapted to manage failover of a job agents in an always-on setup? So,
let me think about that.
Yeah, good question, Joseph Kroschel.
Good question. Yep, I've actually never run this in that scenario. I need to think about that. Great question, though. So the thing is that there's an agent on each side, and if it fails over, hopefully the question, first of all, the HA is involved with the databases. It's not involved with the jobs in the agent. So you have to manually make sure that your jobs are in sync on both sides. Well, the nice thing I know about whenever I work with a cluster with more than one node is I can just fail over to the other node, do my maintenance, and then fail back. But I think my answer is going to be that nope, I don't have an answer. It all depends on what you're trying to do. But good question. So why did I come up? There's a reason why I came here. That was something else I was doing. Nope. Well, I remember what it was. I was in a different instance, and I wanted to show you that this is a smaller instance, less numbers of. I want to go to my admin, and somebody asked about the maintenance plan, or the defragging. So I'm going to show you that in action on this server. This is a dev server, so it's not doing anything important, and I just have databases that haven't had much activity. So okay, I'm going to say. What's the name of the databases I have on this machine? There's one called this one here. I'm going to go to this database here. Okay, now I'm going to go to this. And again, I don't like those. Yeah, we'll just so that's my debug parameter. So when I run this, so I tend to not like to use maintenance plans and SSIS packages. Nothing wrong with if you like that. You got to use whatever you like. I'm a fan of T-SQL. I try to do as much in T-SQL as I can. It's kind of like if you're a carpenter fixing a problem, everything looks like a hammer, So for me, everything, I try to do it in T-SQL. If I can't do it in T-SQL, well, then I'll use any of the other things. I feel like I have the most control over T-SQL. Anyway, let's see, that's running. Let's give that a moment. Hopefully that'll run. But anyway, so I think we're done with the talk about taming the SQL agent. Thanks everybody for your participation. And I think when we're done with this, then I think we'll be done. Hopefully, I'm embarrassed now that it's not running. I mean, it's running, it's not finishing. But what this does is it generates all the code to do the rebuilding, the reorganizing of every index. and you could copy paste it, or you could tell it to execute automatically. And then also, whenever it does anything, it keeps a log. Let me check out my log table. BW log. Is it event? No, it's log. Log. No, it's not a view. Sorry, log event. Yeah, it's not much. It's not much has happened on the server. Okay, so here's what it did: is it used all that metadata, and it gave me a quick list. Here's the fragmentation level. There's the rows in that table, and the number of pages. So the reason this is important, of course, is that if it's only got 1 or 2 pages and it's heavily fragmented, we don't care. But go to this messages tab, and there's all the code. So I can take all this code, copy and paste it into a new window. And I could piecemeal and just do one of these if I wanted to. I could say, oh, okay. And it's got the use statement right there if I needed to. I can just say use that. And then and up here in my comments, it tells me this particular table, that's how big it is. It's megabytes. It's a 3 gig table. That's why that took so long. I got some big tables in here. It's got 1 million rows. Fragmentation is 99%, 102 pages. That's a great candidate for defragging. Anyway, if I didn't do it with the, if I flip this 1 to a 0, then it actually does everything instead of just showing me. And then it records every single defrag for every index to a log table. And let me try to find that in another instance, because I've done that a million places, but that was a dev server. Whoops, what did I do? Let's try that on this server. Log event. Yeah, so you notice how I've got 2 columns. One's called num1 and num2, and it tells you here what they are. So num1 is the percent fragmentation, that was 20%. Num2 is number of pages at 5 pages, and then it did a defrag, and it tells you what it did. So let's see, when it starts the process, there's begin. It says, hey, it's going to do, number of indexes to process it is 147 out of 39 out of a 147 is what it's going to do. So then you see this number here, it's in parentheses. So when it gets to number 37, or no, wait a minute, number 39, it stopped at 33 for some reason. Anyway, it ended there. So anyway, I could keep track of how often so that I have thresholds of when I'm defragging these things, and I can keep track of how often it's doing it just by looking at my log table. So everything's logged. Again, the idea is to take a lazy approach. Haha. Okay, I think I'm done talking. You guys have any more questions or anything else? Anybody want to contribute something, or Parrish have anything to say?
No, I think there's one gentleman I think who has been thanking you profusely, Ed Swastitz, and a few gentlemen and ladies around. Happy. It's been a very interactive crowd so far.
So I don't have a list of who's on or anything. Who's I mean, I can't even tell how many people are there.
Yeah, so usually about 50 to 100 people sign on to this, right? Typically.
Oh, cool.
So you had about 50 plus today.
Nice.
And it's very interactive. I'm happy people are asking questions as we went along. And it's just about 1 minute to go. So if you have no questions, or if you want to bring up your blog site again on a query window here, people can look at it in some way, then we can definitely go ahead and
give me about an hour, maybe half an hour, and go to my blog, and I'll have today's code right there on the homepage.
Okay, cool.
I want to say thank you for the people who gave me questions that I couldn't answer. Gives me something to think about and something to code for the future.
Okay, great. Okay, so then I can let people go. Guys, thank you for attending, taking your time out of your busy schedules. And please do thank Quest Software and Susie for sponsoring our awesome speakers here today.
Cool.
And we look forward to seeing you guys at the next event. And Paul, if you are around, please consider coming to Boston and speaking at our user groups here too. So,
Yep.
okay,
Thank you.
so
Yep.
adios, everyone.
I don't have any
Have an
money.
awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're a DBA. You shouldn't talk like that.
Right.
Yeah. So everybody's asking the same question.
Actually,
sometimes if
do I have
this
30
is,
seconds? Can I show something? I want to show you the homepage of my blog.
yeah, sure. Yeah.
Right now, so at SQL Saturday in Denver, I just presented on this topic. The topic was, where is it at? No, that's not it. How did that get there? The topic was, should you be a contractor or should you work as an employee? And I gave a presentation on the pros and the cons after doing mostly contract work for about 90% of my last 20 years. The pros and the cons of, there it is right there. So consulting, contracting, is it right for me? Is that the same one? This is just an advertisement, but
Yeah, this is also pretty good actually. We have had something like this presented by, I do believe it was Brent Ozar several years ago. But we
okay.
do have a past professional development chapter too. If you would like to come and talk about this, do come and talk about it at the professional development chapter. We actually do not have a fixed schedule, but we can squeeze you in anytime you're ready.
That's
So we
awesome.
give about 3 weeks notice to people for being able to sign up. So let's call it a day for now, Paul, and thank you so much for your time, my friend. And I hope to see you in Denver or in Boston soon or at the PASS Summit. Take care. Bye.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.